I found out that my wife had been having an affair with her best friend for 15 years. At that moment, a text suddenly popped up on the smart TV. I confronted her, told the children, and filed for divorce. I am 45 years old and have been married to my wife Amy for 15 years. I am the director of a company, while my wife is a housewife. She worked in a nursery in her 20s, but after marriage she chose to become a housewife. We have 2 daughters. Emma is 13 and Ella is 11. We were a happy family until last week, when the truth about my wife's adultery was exposed by the smart TV. Last week was our friend John's birthday, who has been living in another country for the past few years. We made a video call to him at midnight to wish him a happy birthday, and then all 4 of us. My wife and I chatted with John and his wife about work and life. He didn't have any other plans for his birthday night, so we decided to meet online and relax. His wife suggested that we use the Chromecast on the TV to play the WhatsApp video call so we could sit back, relax, and spend some quality time together. My friend's wife is also good friends with Amy, and we used to hang out together when they were in town. Amy connected her phone to the TV, as the TV remote control app had been installed and activated on her phone. We got some beers and snacks and enjoyed the virtual celebration. After a while, Amy felt dizzy and dozed off on the sofa, while John and I continued chatting. His wife also fell asleep after 15 to 20 minutes. The call was cut off due to network fluctuations, and my wife's WhatsApp screen popped up on the TV. I was about to call John back when I noticed that there were more than 10 unread messages from someone named Lifeline, with a heart icon. I was a little surprised, because it wasn't me. Curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on the avatar to find out it was her childhood friend Matt. I had met him countless times after marriage because my wife was very close to him. They were neighbors and classmates. She had told me that the people around them and their schoolmates thought they were either dating or would end up together. However, according to my wife, this had never happened. She did not consider him a partner because Matt was not interested in women and was currently single. Seeing my wife's lifeline did not bother me, because she told me that he was not interested in women. But just then, another message popped up in the chat window. "Baby, I miss you." This prompted me to investigate the matter further. I hesitated to open Matt's chat history and found that his wife had been chatting with him on the phone the whole time. She accidentally fell asleep and didn't give him a goodnight kiss, which is why he was blowing her WhatsApp after getting a blue tick on his message. And his message came in, "Why didn't you reply? Is everything okay? Without your goodnight kiss, I can't sleep. I couldn't get over today's meeting. OMG, you were so wonderful today. This can't be a conversation between good friends." At that point, I was convinced that their relationship had gone beyond friendship. I went through their chat history and found that they had sex almost every night. Oh my God. What kind of dirty things did they talk about while my wife slept peacefully on the couch? I went through all the dirty chat between her and her lover friend, which occasionally flashed X-rated photos and nudes that made me shudder. I was numb, but I wanted to know everything that was going on between them. I didn't know how to take screenshots of the conversations on the TV, so I used my phone to take pictures of the TV screen. After taking 4 or 5 pictures, I was done. I didn't care about collecting evidence. I wanted to know why I was screaming and venting my frustration, but I didn't know how to face her. It was 2 a.m. I had already had a few whiskeys with countless bears, and I had barely the energy to move or think. I just kept scrolling through the chat history and saw my failed marriage presented before my eyes on the big screen, and everything seemed unfounded. She shared every second of detail with her lover, even the details of our intimate moments. In fact, after every intimate moment between us, she would repeat the same things to her lover to make up for his feelings. I felt sick and I wanted to know when it all started, so I kept scrolling, but it looked like an endless sea, and even when you reached the deepest corner, it just got deeper. By this time, Matt's message had stopped sending, and the house was deathly silent. I felt like I was being haunted. I grabbed a cushion nearby just to make sure I wasn't dreaming or hallucinating. I was still scrolling aimlessly when Amy suddenly woke up from her slumber. She saw her double life displayed on the TV screen, and her sleepy mind suddenly became extraordinarily active. She immediately took the remote control from me and turned off the TV. Then she pounced on her phone and unplugged it from the TV. I watched her in disbelief as she opened the WhatsApp chat, browsed through her lover's chat history, and then let out a long sigh before closing the app. She understood everything. She covered my face with her hands, leaned in close and said, "Baby, I can explain. Please just listen to me." I stared at her and replied, "Sure, please explain." She was surprised by my reaction. She had expected me to overreact and not listen to her. I would have done the same if the time had been 2:30 p.m. instead of 2:30 a.m. I almost passed out, partly from the alcohol, but mainly because I couldn't accept the truth. I repeated, "Damn it, explain." She was at a loss for words and muttered, "Well, okay." I said, "You know what, don't even try, you know you're screwed." I staggered to the bedroom. She followed me. I turned around to keep her out, then slammed the door in her face. I heard her knocking a few times, but soon passed out. I woke up the next morning. My head was heavy. I almost forgot what happened last night. I walked out of the room to get a bottle of water. My throat was dry. Seeing me come out of the room, she rushed towards me. Seeing this, all the painful memories of last night came flooding back. She wanted to hug me, but she asked her to step back. She flinched, tears in her eyes, a puppy dog expression on her face, and she told me that I had misunderstood, that I had ignored her, and walked over to the refrigerator to get the water bottle. She kept nagging, saying that I had overreacted, that he was just a friend, that they had never had any physical relationship, just chatting, just healthy flirting, and that I wasn't ready to face conflict. But her lame excuses irritated me, and I screamed at the top of my lungs. Really, who the hell sends nude photos to a male friend? What is the sexual innuendo? Shouldn't he be uninterested in women? Then why would he be interested in your private parts? It was Saturday morning. Fortunately, my children were not at home. They had gone to my parents' house for the summer that week. I stared at her and demanded an explanation. I was in a terrible state of mind, trying to get to the bottom of things, even though I knew it could drive me crazy. I wanted her to confess every detail of her crime, but every time she opened her mouth, I felt like vomiting. I gritted my teeth to get her to talk, but when she did, I told her to shut up. I didn't know what I was doing. I knew it wasn't rational, but how else would anyone react to learning they'd been lied to for the past 15 years? That their entire married life had been a sham? I drank a whole bottle of water in one go, and then she confessed everything, from the beginning, or I would have beaten the two-faced bastard black and blue this time, instead of covering up or pleading. She revealed the truth, admitting that she and Matt had always been lovers, that they had had a physical relationship in high school, and that it had continued ever since. However, Matt was a lazy bum, and he told Amy outright that he could not support her. A little background on Matt. He is a dropout who has never earned a penny on his own. His parents have purchased several decent properties in the suburbs, and the rental income barely covers his expenses, but it is not enough to support two people. I met his parents a few times when I went to Amy's house, and they were very worried about Matt's laziness, asking Amy to persuade him to find a job or start a business. Everyone except Matt was worried about him. Back to the topic. Amy admitted that she did break up with Matt many times because of his commitment issues, but he always managed to win her back. Apparently, Matt never had any problem with Amy dating other guys, even though he never dated anyone other than Amy. She had a few boyfriends before we started dating, so it sounds true to me, although it's surprising what kind of lover would do that. I know, maybe a lazy person. I asked her why she didn't marry him if they were so close. She said Matt would always provide her with a good lifestyle, and besides, Amy didn't have a stable job and didn't even aspire to a career. She could be the breadwinner of the family, but she chose to be a parasite and lead a double life. I asked her one last question, whether the children were mine or Matt's, and she swore that they were mine. I didn't believe her and still suspected her. She offered to do a DNA test if I didn't believe her, saying that she couldn't risk having a child with Matt because she was afraid that if the truth came out, I would abandon the children, and that even if Matt wanted to raise them, he wouldn't be able to. I don't know whether I should feel relieved that at least the children are mine. I told her to leave the house or I would reveal the truth about her to everyone, even the children. They may be young, but they are smart enough to understand the truth. She begged me not to tell our daughters about it, saying they would hate her and have no respect for her. I refilled a bottle of water, grabbed a couple of beer bottles, went back to the room and locked the door. I sat in front of the laptop staring at the screen for over an hour. I didn't know what to do next or who to talk to. The truth was torturing me from the inside. After finishing the beer, I felt suffocated. I went out into the hall, grabbed the car keys, and drove to my father-in-law's house, which was 30 minutes away. My MILF smiled as she rang the doorbell, but when she saw how red I was, she knew something was wrong. So she called my Phil, who rushed out of the bedroom and made me sit down. I was sweating with nerves and my heart was pounding. I told them I didn't know of a better way to handle the situation, and told them everything. My throat became dry, and my body temperature soared as I revealed the ugly truth. Halfway through, we heard someone knocking at the door. It was Amy, who rushed in and told me to leave immediately. She said this was our private matter and we should solve it ourselves without involving her parents. Over the next few hours, I was emotional and furious. I accused her of cheating on me for 15 years, while she played it down, saying it was just a passing fancy that meant nothing to her. Gradually, she turned the tables on me, accusing me of manipulating her parents against her. I defended myself and my in-laws took my side and blamed her. I drank all weekend, passing out in between, and the next day was Monday, and I felt groggy and exhausted when I went to work. I Googled some divorce lawyers at the office and made an appointment with one. I came home to find some of her things missing. I guess she came home while I was away to pack some things and left. I didn't check on her. She sent me a message saying she'll stay at a hotel and asked me to calm down. Does she really think this is trivial and I can simply move on? She also sent me a message asking for forgiveness and promising to end her relationship with her lover. A week has passed since that fateful day, and today is Friday again. This week has been going too slowly for me, and I think the weekend will be even slower. A meeting with a lawyer on Monday. I've read a lot of Reddit stories and tried to find a solution to my problem, but I think my problem is more complicated than I am. I worry about my daughters, how I will face them, and whether I should face them. Update. Thanks for all your advice. I'm sorry I haven't updated in a while, but I've been in contact with some of you via private messages and comments. I know it's been 6 months since my first post, and let me tell you, I've been through a lot in that time. That Monday, I met with a lawyer and told him about my concerns for my daughters. The lawyer advised me to tactfully discuss the separation with the children without going into details so as not to traumatize them. He also said that since my wife was unemployed and given the nature of her infidelity, I had a good chance of getting custody. That same day, my parents called Amy to pick up the girls at their house, not yet knowing the situation. When she returned home with the children, I was lying exhausted on the sofa, having just had an intense meeting with my lawyer. I avoided talking in front of the children and retreated to my room. When she entered the bedroom, I told her to face the girls and admit her adultery. She began to cry and begged me to forgive her. She kept saying that the girls would hate her for it. I think they should hate her. She's being hated. What did you expect? After 15 years of cheating on your family, the lawyer said it would take about a week to send the divorce papers to Amy, so I had a week to sort things out with the kids and my parents. I told her I wanted a divorce. She reacted as if it were a sudden event. She said that the children would be traumatized by the divorce. I wanted to know what she had done with all the motherly love over the years. Over the years, I asserted that my decision was final and gave her an ultimatum of 1 week to face the children the way she liked, or I would tell them the truth. I grabbed a pillow and took naps on the bedroom sofa. For an entire week, I left the house early in the morning and didn't come home until late at night. The weekend was approaching, and she cried all night, sometimes so hard that I would wake up. I did feel sorry for her, but how could she have done this for so many years? Did she think she would never be found out? She had plenty of opportunities to leave her lover, but she stayed with him. Our private conversations, my insecurities, my deep-seated secrets, she showed them all to her lover without reservation. How could I ever forget that? On Friday evening, she told me that she had planned how she would face the girls the next day. After breakfast on Saturday, I nodded. She told the girls that we had some news. She said that I had been transferred to another country and would therefore be working away for a few years. I was dumbfounded, while my daughter stared at me. I asked her sarcastically in front of my daughter if that meant I had to move out of the house. She rolled her eyes, sighed, and told me to shut up. She said that since the house was too big for the three of us, we could move in with our parents and find a smaller place later. The girls were confused by this. They were young but not stupid, and they could see the game she was playing. My younger daughter told Amy that what she was saying made no sense, while my older daughter bluntly asked us if we were getting a divorce. I gave Amy a stern look and urged her to tell the truth. She sighed and broke down. The girls looked at me for an answer. I told them that they were right, that we were indeed getting a divorce. I explained to them that we no longer felt right for each other. My eldest daughter asserted that I might be having an affair, which was why Amy was crying. She took her mother's and asked her if she was cheating on Amy, instead of clarifying the situation. Amy just hugged her and waited. The girls looked at me with disgust. I was mad at that manipulative woman. I was shocked to see how she had turned the tables. I told my daughters everything, how I had found out and what their mother was doing. Of course, I left out the A+ part. Amy yelled at me, saying that I had broken my promise. She told me that I had given her the freedom to explain anything to my daughters. So why hadn't I supported her when she told them about my transfer? The situation had gotten out of hand, and I decided to say no to Amy's manipulation. I called my parents and in-laws and asked them to come as soon as possible. They lived 25 to 30 minutes away from my house, and within an hour, all four of them were at my house. That hour was a nightmare for me, one I will never forget. My daughters were crying and hugging me, while Amy was trying to justify her actions, even going so far as to portray me as a liar and manipulator who turned the girls against me. She only stopped when I told her I had photos of those conversations. Shocked to see where we were, I gave a brief account of the incident. Everyone despised Amy for her heinous behavior. She kept crying and asking for forgiveness. At that moment, I felt sorry for her. Seeing her like that, I was also sad, but she brought this on herself, rather than portraying me as the villain in front of my daughters. She could have told them that our relationship had broken down or something, but she was unwilling to take responsibility. Now her ugly truth was laid bare for everyone to see, including her daughters. I made it clear that we would continue with the divorce and that the girls would stay with me. I asked her parents to take her away, and even the girls asked her to leave. My parents decided to stay and look after us for a few weeks. It was a really difficult time for us, but we are glad that we got through it strong. We have all signed up for psychotherapy, and we are all in a much better frame of mind now. My divorce proceedings are ongoing. Amy is claiming a share of my house, which I dispute, as she is not entitled to a penny. Surprisingly, she is not contesting custody of the children, which makes it easy to understand her priorities during the confrontation and even afterwards. Amy promised to sever all ties with her lover, yet after she moved in with her parents, she was found going to the lover's house, where her siblings caught her and humiliated her, and she was eventually forced to leave the house. Her parents humiliated Matt's behavior and notified his parents. As far as I know, Matt's parents have cut off all of Matt's property rents and asked him to support himself, while Amy works as a sales agent in the showroom. I don't think about her anymore. I focus on raising my daughter and providing them with the best things I can. Wish me luck. Next story. The inappropriate behavior of my two 4-year-old sons at kindergarten revealed my wife's affair. I caught her on a hidden camera and filed for divorce. I am 32 years old, married to a 31-year-old woman for 4 years. We have a 4-year-old son who goes to kindergarten. I work long hours and am the main breadwinner. My wife doesn't work because she didn't like her previous job. At least recently she has been at home looking after our son, although we were called to our son's kindergarten, where they said he started behaving inappropriately about 3 weeks ago, trying to kiss the girls, lift up their skirts and touch their bottoms. My wife and I were at a loss for words. We could hardly explain, because I always take care not to behave like that in front of the child. We are very strict about the programs he is allowed to watch, and parents are always present when he goes on visits or to playdays. As far as I know, the only place he could have picked up this strange idea was at school, but the teachers were also unable to explain it, especially since he was the only student to behave in this way. They were therefore convinced that he had picked it up at home. They had also spoken to him, but obviously needed the support of a parent's voice. We spoke to our son about it and decided to consider therapy in case the behavior continued. I couldn't get the apocalypse out of my head, so I decided to chat with my son to find out what had caused this situation. I waited until my wife was out of the house and asked him about his behavior and all his childlike innocence. He told me that the uncle who came when I was at work had done that to his mother, and that his mother had never scolded him. In his 4-year-old mind, he thought that moment was normal. His confession piqued my curiosity. It sounded like an affair, so I asked him a few questions. Did the uncle come over often? What did they do most of the time? What did they do with mom? Do they kiss? Do they whisper? How long will he stay until I get home from work? I was furious. I worked hard to support my family, long hours with barely enough time to rest, while she spent all her time cheating on me instead of looking for another job or spending more time with our son. I planned to catch her red-handed, so I developed a plan of strategy. I pretended to take my son to visit my parents, telling her we would be gone for a few days, to give her time to make arrangements, as she had been the primary caregiver for our son since she quit her job. She didn't object or suspect anything, so I packed my bags and made the trip look like a real one. I installed a camera in the living room and left with my son, because I had no intention of going to see my parents at all. I went to my brother's house, which is nearby, and a few hours later, after we had left, the car parked in front of our house and the man came out carrying the camera from the living room. I watched my wife making out with the man in the living room. I was furious, sad for my family and heartbroken for my son. I recorded the video and sent it to her parents, brother, and other close family members. They were all angry. Some decided to pretend they didn't know, asked me what had happened to me, if someone had made a fake video or something else. Her parents called me to ask for forgiveness for the whole thing and try to work things out with her. They insisted they had not raised their daughter this way and that there had to be a reasonable explanation for what had happened. They said they would talk to her personally to find out what had really happened. Her brother, on the other hand, was understandably furious with her. He said he was shocked by her behavior and would support me in whatever action I chose to take. My wife also called after seeing the video and began begging and pleading for forgiveness. She claimed she had been seduced and had been unable to resist, but that she had recognized her mistake and did not want to lose her family. She insisted that she was willing to do anything to regain my favor. By then, I had completely given up on the relationship. I was mortified at myself for missing all the signs, for letting them get away with it behind my back in a house I paid for. What made it worse was that they had exposed my 4-year-old son to this behavior. I was determined to separate from her, so I asked her to leave the house, as it was only fair as I paid for it and maintained it. I also let her know that it was over between us. I didn't want to continue a relationship with someone who cheated on me and didn't respect me. She refused to leave and wouldn't admit that it was over between us. She insisted that we could work things out, at least for the sake of our son. I told her that if she didn't leave peacefully, I would have to call the police and she would never see her son again. That woke her up and she finally left. I applied for a divorce through a mediator. I want to keep the house and the car. We have always managed our finances separately, and I will negotiate this because of the reasons that led to the breakdown of the marriage, and I will fight for at least 50% or more custody. I have no problem with joint custody of the children, and I will pay close attention to what the children are exposed to. I intend to use her behavior against her and fight for the divorce with all my might